Let's get to it. We got the first round of the college football playoff starting on Friday, so it's time for us to do some previews and make picks here. We're going to start with the Battle of Indiana. We've got the Hoosiers, number 10 team in the land. They're going to be at Notre Dame. Notre Dame favored by 7.5 points. Again, this one's a Friday night kick. Over-under in that, by the way, is 50.5. I wanted to toss it up to you because we talked about Marcus Freeman just a second ago with the extension there, what he means to that program, what he means to that locker room. Curt Cignetti, the AP Coach of the Year, had one of the most miraculous turnarounds of a program that we've seen in a year. Just put it all into context here as they're getting prepared to go on the road to South Bend.
Yeah, I always start with this is a program that has lost more college football games than anybody else in the history of the sport, because you need to put that context to understand how crazy it is that not just that they were able to win double digits amounts of wins for the very first time in program history, but make the college football playoff. I mean, it went from, wow, this is a great story. Look, Indiana's like not at the bottom of the Big Ten to, oh, they could actually be part of the playoff because there's 12 spots now. And so that is remarkable. And we've talked over the course of this whole season about how he did it and kind of, bringing over a lot of guys from JMU to set the culture, a lot of group of 5 players stepping up, moving up a level, and then obviously succeeding. We talk about how prepared they are, how they don't beat themselves, and just the style of play, the soundness offensively and defensively. So none of it's a fluke. I think when we look at the actual game, we can talk about Curtis Rourke in this passing offense. We can talk about Indiana's defense, which, by the way, is number 1 in the country against the run, which is why this is going to be such a fascinating matchup against an elite run game from Notre Dame. The question we continue to come down on is, what do they do with the athletes, right? They've struggled on both lines at times against teams when they're playing guys that are going to have future pros, and that's Michigan and Ohio State. But there are a lot of ways that I think they can certainly stay in the game. They could jump out to a lead. We've seen them be that type of team in first quarters across the season. So I don't want to completely say, well, they just can't match up against guys that are pros and better athletes, because they have done an incredible job all season long, certainly against teams that they are better than. They have crushed those kinds of teams. But there's a fight and a belief that they can win these games, that they belong on the field against anyone that they play, which I think is really important when you come into a game like this, of this magnitude, the very first on-campus playoff game. I'll be there, which I'm excited because it is the first of the 4. It's expected to snow. This is the state of Indiana battle. There's a lot of layers to this, Joshua. But as much as I do think Notre Dame is going to win this game, I do think that Indiana has some reasons to be optimistic, right? And I do start with the way that they have defended the run for most of the season. And even, in some of those biggest games that they struggled in or were tighter than usual or they lost, they still were able to do that at times.
No, Nicole, I'm totally there with you. I think you sparked an interesting thing about the game flow of this one for Indiana, because, we're looking at a team for 10 weeks of the college football season that didn't trail in a game, right? They had played with leads. And the one question that we have both expressed about Notre Dame is, if you get down 10 points early, if you get down 14 points early, do you have the type of offense to throw your way back into a game? And in particular, when it is cold and the ball is hard and you might have elements out there, can you achieve that? And so I do think there is a pathway for Indiana, certainly, and it's probably the idea that you get off to a quick start. Now, they're going up against a Notre Dame defense that I think is phenomenal. They are built really well in the front. They have withstood injury throughout the year. Their linebackers are fast and aggressive. They cover really well in the back end, and that's a group that's been banged up this year too. So, it's certainly not going to be an easy challenge, but I think there are a lot of people nationally who are still non-believers in Indiana and think that they're just going to get stomped out in this game. I'm not too sure about it. Now, I do love that battle that you mentioned, though, about the number 1 run defense in the country going up against the number 10 rushing offense in America. And I do think, to your point, step up in competition. This is the best running back room they're going to see. The Ohio State guys were really good. I thought they did a pretty solid job for the most part. At the end of the game, Trayvon had that big run. This is a better running back room, in my opinion, with that offensive line blocking for him than what they saw against Ohio State. Certainly going to be a challenge there. I'm excited, but at the end of the day, I'm kind of with you. I like Notre Dame to win this one. I do think 7.5 feels right. I think this is a touchdown game. That hook is killing me there. So I might take Indiana with the points there, but I do think Notre Dame's going to pull out the victory.
That's a tough one too. I'll just, for the sake of being different, maybe we can track our playoff picks. I will take Notre Dame to cover, but I agree. I mean, it's like 10 points feels like kind of the most that it's going to be, just because Indiana like does not beat themselves unless there's a bunch of turnovers or something that we don't typically see from them. I think it's going to stay close.
And to that point, I thought the Ohio State game, the more you look at it, looked worse for Indiana than it actually was. There was a sack fumble that was bad. There was a punt return for a touchdown. There was the punter who couldn't handle the snap. Like, there were some advantageous special teams plays, field position setups for Ohio State, and Indiana had not really done that all year. So you can't take those plays out of the game, but certainly you don't think Indiana is going to have another one where it's like that.